It's the Fulhamish podcast, your independent voice of Fulham FC. My name's Sammy James. Welcome to the show. Today it is the Thursday Club as we look back at our 2-0 win in the Carabao Cup against Birmingham City. Not very pretty, but we're into round 3. Also today we'll preview Ipswich away and we'll look at the latest transfer rumours. Something's just dropped hot off the press right before recording. Go on, Fulham. I'm joined by Jack Collins. Hello.
Hello, Sammy. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. How nice is it when a transfer rumour drops 5 minutes before recording?
Peter Rutzler bomber.
He knew what time. He knows what time we record.
He knows what time the record goes out, and he goes, you know what they need today? A bit of Ernest Nuamah to talk about. That's really what everyone really needs right now. So yeah, excited. We'll come on to it.
Peter, we know you listen or watch occasionally.
Man.
Thanks for your timing. We love you. Right, Jack, let's discuss Birmingham City. But before we do, as ever, 3-word reviews. What were your favourites that came through?
It's been a long time since I've been on secretarial duty, actually. I don't do that many Monday shows anymore.
Well, yeah, and we didn't have many midweek matches towards the end of last season, did we? So 3-word reviews, please.
I'm going to Instagram.
Yes.
Which I very rarely do, but there's some really good ones.
I think like the people that do the Sunday pod and pick the 3-word reviews always go to X. I think Instagram is the unloved and undeserved 3-word review.
You wait till we start putting them on TikTok. Then we're really into business.
We used to put them on Facebook, and I used to get people come up to me being like, why do you never read the ones off Facebook?
Yeah.
So we stopped.
Well, I tell you what, actually, someone came up to me at the cottage in the game against Leicester on Saturday and said, look, I'm trying not to use X anymore. Can you get Fulhamish onto Threads?
This guy met me. I don't know if he was trying to hunt us down, but he also found me outside Putney Pies near Putney Bridge and was like, I found Jack and I just said, I really want people to go on Threads.
So... I mean,
do we need to do this?
Probably. Like, I'm still struggling with the fact that Threads doesn't have a desktop. You can only use it on your phone. So that's a big one. Once they open up a desktop, I'll be all over it.
Especially, I mean, without going massive into how it is to run Fulhamish. Yeah, if it was on it, it would be a little bit easier.
Yes. Yeah, the logistics of it don't really work as well on my phone. But anyway, I digress. We should get on to some 3-word reviews. And I really enjoyed this from Neil Laws, obviously hot off the news that Oasis are reuniting.
Yeah.
He went, some might J.
It's just 10 out of 10.
Sensational.
10 out of 10.
No notes. I enjoyed a couple of them. Williams Twin Clan with J2O. Fantastic. Really, really enjoyed that. And we had a few. We had Hussein Musa, who said beating midweek blues. Excellent, really good. Lorcan Moore, a Stansfield ovation. I love this from Justin Gilbs, who said, JJ, we gotcha. I thought that was excellent.
That is
really,
stunning.
really enjoyed that. And then a lot of them basically were about Jay Stansfield. And Tobias Ninivara said Blue Jay Melody, which I thought was really lovely.
See?
Really nice.
We need to go to Instagram more. There we go.
Agreed. Great stuff. Enjoyed.
Well done, Instagram.
Well done, everyone.
Right. 2-0 victory over Birmingham. This was a nice watch. I mean...
Was it?
Well, okay, no. It was nice to see, like, the Fulham kind of second team, and it was simple that it was on Sky. I quite enjoyed sitting down to watch this match, and then, I actually had to watch the football. We're through. That is the main thing. I know you were kind of less than impressed, though.
Yeah, I mean, look, I should probably caveat this with the idea that you kind of consider all the things. It was a changed team. It's a midweek game. It's a cup game that you just need to get through. And you made the very good point that Sky had put this on the main channel because it was probably the best chance of an upset given all the Premier League teams that played last night and where they were kind of looking, because it was... I wouldn't say upwardly mobile, that's probably a stretch, but a Birmingham side that have spent the most in League One history, who are looking to obviously win the league and bounce straight back to the Championship, who we know have brought in some very interesting players, the likes of Alfie May, who I thought played really well. And they obviously had looked at this and thought, well, Fulham will play a second team or at least, rotate heavily. Could there be an upset here? So caveat with good job well done through the cup, through what could have been a tricky tie without too much kind of stress. I think is probably the way I'd put it. But I wasn't impressed by almost anybody on the pitch in terms of performance. I thought Jay Stansfield did pretty well for the goal, and his defensive work rate was excellent, and I've got to give him credit for that. But apart from that, didn't have too many moments of sort of magic. I thought Harry Wilson struggled. I thought Tom Kearney struggled. I thought Raul Jimenez was pretty much anonymous. Timmy Castagna did okay and had a really good moment when he cleared the ball off the line. I thought the pass by Joachim Andersen was lovely, obviously, for Stansfield goal, but apart from that, didn't have all that much to do. Cuenca, I thought, recovered well from his own mistakes. But if he hadn't made the mistakes, then he wouldn't have had to recover in the first place. So there was that. I thought Cesc struggled defensively for the first 45 minutes. Got better as the game went along. But
Hashtag not a left back.
Well, I don't know. If he's not a left back at this point, I don't know where he plays. So we're at that kind of level where, he was being absolutely torched by Ethan Laird down the right for the first sort of 30 minutes or so. And you're thinking, oh God, it's not a particularly good sign if Silva, as he said, does want to play him in that position going forward. I thought Sander Berge had some nice moments, but on the whole, kind of wasn't quite up to speed with the pace of the game. Harrison Reed did okay, I suppose. And Stephen Bender fills me with absolutely no confidence. So you're kind of looking at it as an 11 and going, there's not loads to love about that, is there?
But there was an element, though, for me where, look, the second half was... I'd say it was like watching paint dry, but Birmingham were mostly on top. It felt like it wasn't quite a siege.
Birmingham on top were about 60% of the game, probably more.
But my only thought is, I think if we had conceded, let's say that free kick that smacked the bar went in just before half time, I felt like Fulham could have turned the screw and went on to win 3-1. It was quite ugly because we were trying to contain, a positive Birmingham side to 2-0. Well, and we weren't turning our nose up at scoring a third, but we certainly weren't trying that hard. And I think that's sometimes what you get when you just end up in an early lead, which suited Fulham. We don't want to expend too much energy. I mean, you could argue that some players had places to play for. And
well, that was exactly the point I was going to make, right? That you're assuming that a Harry Wilson, for example, a Jorge Cuenca, you'd imagine, a Timmy Castagna, have seen the team that started the first couple of games and thought, I don't know how I'm going to break into that.
How do you break in, though, as a defender particularly, and impress, other than keeping a clean sheet?
Yeah, okay. I take that. And look, Castagna did everything that was asked of him. That block off the line was brilliant. But okay, for a Harry Wilson, let's say, or Tom Kearney, I think Jay Stansfield did fine, and that's fine. Or a Raul Jimenez even. Muniz hasn't been brilliant first two games of the season, has he? He's not set the world on fire. I think he's done okay. Thought he battled quite admirably against two back lines, which were set up to marshal him. But he hasn't been, on fire. It's not like he scored 3 goals in the first 2 games and he's undroppable. If Raul had scored a hat-trick last night, he's going on the door going, look, hey, I'm still here, and I want to play. And I didn't really feel like there was any of that kind of desire to get on the ball and dominate and dictate. And I thought it was a really strange performance in many ways, because you're looking at that and thinking, well, at 2-0 up, against the run of play, both goals really, in some ways, you're going, well, go on and absolutely hammer them and just put them to the sword and stake your claim to be like, okay, I understand that the first team are there and that's what you're kind of looking at, but also you've got to accept that I'm in this squad and I'm pushing for a place. And I saw so little of that last night. And I thought that was maybe the most disappointing thing. Now, you can talk about players coming in cold, Berger and Anderson. You can talk about fitness and not wanting to rush too much out of Sessegnon, etc. And I get it. But I do think there are players in that team who surely should be looking at that as an opportunity missed, as opposed to something just we went to Birmingham, we won 2-0.
But I guess this game was akin to a pre-season match for so many of them. Anderson and Berger making their debuts. Sessegnon played a little bit in pre-season, but not very much. I think Birmingham were just a bit too good, because I think they're going to finish top of League One, and if they don't, it's going to be...
Well, if they don't, it's a travesty.
Yeah. So we're playing a really good side that full of confidence, and rightly so, given what they've done. I just feel like maybe it's expecting too much to go and roll over Birmingham. I think if we'd have drawn...
No, if you'd offered me 2-0 before the game, I think I would have been like, yeah, fair enough. That's a perfectly reasonable result away from home, right?
Yeah.
I just think that the manner in which it happened, where you're 2-0 up within, 20 minutes, and suddenly you're like, well, go and kick on then. And they're going to have to come at you. They're going to have to come out and try and make a game of it. And look, they weren't, all-out attack. This wasn't gung-ho Birmingham, and I think there was an element of game management from them as well in not wanting to be rolled over.
They knew at 2-0 that they were in that game, didn't they? And I think they were also playing not defensive, but they really knew that if it went to 3, then there was no chance.
Yeah, but I just think that obviously there's going to be gaps left, and there were gaps left at 1-0. You look at the goal that Jay scores.
I mean, it was so weird.
They just stopped defending. So it's not like we're looking at a team here who are clearly absolutely rock solid at the back, and it's hard to break down, because one Anderson passed to bit them over. Did we see that again for the rest of the game? Did we see anyone running over the top looking for that ball?
The only one was Wilson.
Well, Wilson, who botched it. But where was, if you can see that opening up as a course of the game, then why not start to utilise that as a, it's about repeatable actions as well, right? If we can start to look at that Anderson ball through the middle, that diagonal that we know and love, and looking at players latching onto the end of it, then you can start to utilise that in different game states. So and nothing else, try it a couple of times and practice it, because you're trying to then break down a defence that, knows they're going to try and do it, but equally can't be sitting deep on the edge of their own box because they need to find a goal as well out of somewhere. I was kind of just pretty disappointed. It wasn't a terrible performance. I just thought there was loads to give. With 70 minutes left of the game, to be 2-0 up and be like, right, go on, go and stake a claim, go and make things happen. I just thought that maybe, especially with a lot of these players not having featured all that much in the first 2 games, we would have seen a little bit more from them. But as you say, maybe it's rust, maybe it's expecting a little bit too much. I just thought it was pretty frustrating as a watch.
I just don't know if you can have your cake and eat it in this situation where, we all would have said, yes, rest 11 players, rest the first team before Ipswich. Okay, we did that. Hand debuts to players who need to bed into the team. Yes, we did that. But also,
why bring on Emil Smith-Rowe for 5 minutes at the end of the game?
I think that was just a little bit of keeping his legs fresh. I don't think he
got injured.
I thought it was a bit odd, but I think he was just trying to get on the pitch, a few minutes here and there. He's not going to get injured in 5 minutes.
Tell that to Matt O'Reilly.
Well, yeah, but I feel like we achieved everything we did last night. Was it the world's greatest performance? No. Was it quite a tough watch for long periods? Yes. But as he said, and
that's the bit at the top, right? That is it. Job done. Appreciate it. Fine. Done.
Yeah.
Finished.
And it was one of those matches. As soon as it was drawn, I was like, ooh. I was like, that's not ideal. And a lot of people instantly focused on the Jay Stansfield angle, which was funny. And it is funny that he's the only team he's ever scored against for Fulham is Birmingham twice at St Andrews. A lot of people focused on the Jay narrative. I remember thinking that's a nasty little draw. It's one of those that's it's not, I know you could say something like getting a League Two team, they're really, we obviously suffered at Crawley at that time. That was just the weirdest game ever. But so I'd have almost rather played Borough or Stoke or...
Not after Stoke last night, maybe not.
I would rather have played a lower championship team than Birmingham. I think it was one of those where you're they've spent a load of money. They're really ambitious. You can see the Birmingham fans on Twitter for the amount of kind of giddiness they'd had all summer about the thought they might sign Jay Stansfield. They're thinking that they could actually, do something really special here. I felt like the crowd was up. It was one of those games that was messy last night, and I'm just pleased to get through it.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. And look, I suppose there's probably something you could talk about the game against Leicester as well. Same kind of thing. I thought Fulham were good against Leicester, and I was impressed with it. And obviously, we haven't spoken about it, you and I, but when we're kind of looking at that game, what was the overarching feeling? I went to meet a couple of family members afterwards who support various different teams, and they were like, "How was it?" And I was like, "We were good, but we also made it incredibly hard for ourselves for absolutely no reason whatsoever." And that's kind of how I felt a bit about last night too. Without the good bit, we were fine, but we made it unnecessarily difficult for ourselves. And that, there's two sides to that coin, right? One, is that a worry that we can't just, make sure these games are safe and comfortable a little bit? On the flip side of it, we've shown that we have the steel and metal to get through those kind of fixtures when they are a little bit difficult towards the end. And we actually came out of it with 2 wins against Midland sides who play in blue over the course of 4 days. That's probably something to celebrate.
Well, they say, don't they, that teams that win leagues are the ones that play badly and still win. Now, no one's saying that we're going to win the league. I mean, some might say we're going to win the Carabao Cup, but...
Not if we play like that.
Teams are praised for, playing badly and still winning. Yeah. And I think Fulham should be as well.
Yeah, we can take a point. I think we can take that.
Birmingham created some chances last night, but I don't think they created anything for me that I was ever oh my God, apart from the one that was cleared off the line by Timmy Castagna, and as much as Stephen Bender was in no man's land there, it was an outrageously good little flicked header.
It's a great header, but what on earth is he doing? Why have you come steaming out for that and leaving the only gap to goal where it is? That's really bad goalkeeping. Look, credit where it's due. He did make 2 very good stops towards the end. That reflex one that stopped Quaker scoring an own, or was Anderson, one of the 2 scoring an own goal, and another kind of smart save down to his right as well. So he does deserve credit for growing into the game. but I had no idea where he was off to at that point. Like the only the only place that the header could go was around him if he came rushing out. There was no need for it. Bizarre.
Maybe, but then again, it was like a really, really amazing flick that was the only place that could have beaten him.
Yeah. I don't think a top level goalkeeper lets that go past him.
No, but again, like this is a goalkeeper that's never played for us. Like we can't expect too much. And we had a goalkeeper.
But I can worry about that though. That's okay to worry because on what we've seen from Steven Bender in both pre-season and in this game, and yes, okay, obviously pinch to salt, small sample sizes, but if Bernd Leno goes down with an injury at the weekend and we haven't signed someone else, then are you concerned for the rest of the season? Because suddenly I'm like, wow, we're in a relegation dogfight.
Yeah, I mean, this is the whole and I am slightly surprised we haven't gone for a more experienced second choice goalkeeper.
Just drop 10 million on the table for Georgi Petrovic at Chelsea and just be done with it.
But we're not going to spend 10 million on a backup goalkeeper.
Well, you can if you're going to go say that's our, that's your. Well, Liverpool have just spent what?
Yeah, it's Liverpool.
Yes, agreed. But Mamardashvili to go back on loan for another year? Like it shows you what succession planning is like at clubs that do things sensibly, right? Like who have. A plan for the future. And they've gone and been like, right, this is expensive, but it's going to be worth it in 2 years' time when we're not scrambling around for a goalkeeper when our current one leaves. And I say the same for someone like Petrovic. I go, come in, you're not getting any game time at Chelsea this year. None at all. We know that. You're not in the squad. Come in and play all the cup games and be that backup goalkeeper for Bernd Leno. And when he leaves, we will make you our number
all
one.
the cup games until we get to the quarterfinal, it's serious, and then you'll get dropped for Bernd Leno.
No, I don't think so.
We can't not have a cup keeper. If we are at a cup final at Wembley and we are not playing Bernd Leno, I will be knocking on. I will march down to Motspur Park myself and knock on Marco Silva's door.
Well, I will too if it's Steven Bender, but I won't if it's Georgi Petrovic.
No, I will. I don't care who it is. If we're not playing our absolute best team, we are not Liverpool. We cannot have a cup keeper. Like we are not that big.
You need to be able to succession plan, and Fulham are not.
It's just hard, isn't it? We had Marek Rodak last year, and that was a real. We were spoilt to have a really good keeper on the bench, and you can't do that forever because someone of Marek Rodak's pedigree wants to go and play football.
Sure, but we're looking at Bernd Leno at the age he's at, and also I'm surprised that there hasn't been any interest in him, and I think that will come. I think that interest will come from either back in Germany or another Premier League club next summer, and that doesn't mean he's going to leave, and I'm not saying that he is, but you should be prepared for these kind of issues, and currently it doesn't feel like Fulham have any sort of contingency plan in place, and that worries me.
Yeah, I do understand though that it is difficult to find the right person that wants to be. I mean, I saw someone say the other day we're getting about Bettinelli back.
Nope.
Well, better than being 5th choice or 9th choice, whatever he is now up the road.
No, they'll keep Bettinelli as their 3rd choice keeper because that's a role that he's happy to play. Whereas I don't think you want that from a separate. None of the other people in that circle that we're talking about there want to be 3rd choice keeper. Bess is just happy knocking about. He's basically just like Scott Carson, right? That's what he is now in this.
Which I will never understand.
Tom Heaton. That's fine. I mean, he's clearly got to the point in his career where he's like, this is what I want to do. Now I'm part of, I imagine, coaching and learning his coaching badges. And, obviously he has family in that regard who have gone through and been coaches and staff at clubs. He's clearly seen a pathway there. I can't knock that. I think that he's planning for life afterwards whilst also still being in the squad, being utilised, helping the youth that come through. I imagine that it's a different type of life to being a starter. But, what level do you think that Marcus Bettinelli could start at right now? I mean, I would argue League One.
Yeah. I think it's going to be tough. I mean, maybe that is one of the small areas that we may focus on. We still have 2 domestic loans, but it's just a hard sell, isn't it? I mean, I guess we can always use the Premier League to our advantage, but even if you were a starter in the Championship, and let's say you were a good keeper in the Championship, would you trade that to become number 2 at a Premier League club? It's unlikely.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not 100% who you go for in this. And ultimately, he kept a clean sheet, which you do have to be judged on. You can't judge him on a mistake that didn't go in.
Yeah, I can. Of course I can.
And that was once in a game. I mean, keepers do make the odd... for a keeper that's never played.
I'm not convinced. Let's put it that way.
Fair enough. All right. Any other takeaways from the Brum game that stood out to you?
Nothing major. I thought that most of what I've said I've already said. I was pleased that Jay got his goal. I enjoyed his sort of half lack of celebration and everyone else like grinning at him.
Yeah.
Like, to try, it's a bit like when you're like in church and someone's trying to make you laugh. That's what it felt like after he scored. Like, it felt like everyone was like, go on, do a little one, do a little celebration, go on, do a little one. I liked his standing ovation from the Birmingham fans. I thought that was lovely. Apart from that, it was a bit of a non-entity in some ways, wasn't it?
For me, I mean, I loved the Carabao run last year. I would love for another Carabao run. In all honesty, like round 2 was a little bit stressful last year, having to play Spurs and go through on penalties and stuff. I'm just happy for a fairly drama-free progression. And it would be nice if in round 3 we can avoid Man City.
Yeah, that would be good, wouldn't it?
Or Liverpool.
Yeah.
Or us. Just
give us someone in the Championship. Thank you.
Yeah.
By the time people are listening to this, the draw will have been done.
Barrow away.
Barrow away sounds great.
I'm doing it. If it's Barrow away, are you coming?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Barrow and finesse on a Tuesday night.
We will be there.
We will be there. Right, we'll take a break afterwards. We'll look ahead to Ipswich. Part 2 of the Fulhamish podcast. It's Sammy here with Jack Collins. Let's look ahead then to Ipswich Town on Saturday. Portman Road in the sunshine. Last weekend in August. You can't ask for much more than that with an away day. It's a beautiful away day as well, Jack.
It's a cracker.
You've got kind of this little 500-metre walk from the station. There's that pub, and I don't know what the pub's called. I probably should look it up before we finish this part, but it's an absolute beauty, and it is the away fans pub. It's got this amazing like garden that looks out onto the river. It'll be packed full of Fulham fans on Saturday, and then you've maybe got another like 200 metres to the stadium. It's a great stadium because it's kind of old fashioned. You've got a nice view as well because you're side of pitch for the away stand as well. I guess the only thing that might not be nice about Saturday is potentially the football, because this is going to be a difficult game. This is not actually apart from the time of year to go to Ipswich. I wouldn't say this is the ideal time to be facing Ipswich Town, who will be desperate to kind of start their season. Yeah,
I mean, we're just over like almost to the day 7 years since the Rui Font game, where Rui Font exploded onto the scene as a Fulham player.
One of my all-time favourite Fulham days, that.
It was. And I remember it because it was the exact day that Floyd Mayweather fought Conor McGregor.
Iconic.
In the boxing match in the evening. And I remember it being like a serious day. And a couple of my friends came with me that day to Ipswich. We all went up together. We came back. We watched the fight in the evening. If McGregor had won, I think it would have been the perfect day. So
I was smashed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was absolutely smashed that day.
We had a great day. I remember. I think we stood together for the actual game. But it was lots of exactly. It was a great day out. Ipswich is a cracking away day, and the pub, as you say, is incredible. That incredible sort of vibe that you get before a game. There's certain aways that just have a really special kind of mythical place now in my head, and Ipswich very much one of them. But as you say, this is not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination, I don't think. And Ipswich, I've been really impressed by. And it's not often you say, I've been really impressed by a team who have conceded, 6 in their opening 2 games, scored once, but they were against Liverpool at Portman Road, and then obviously Manchester City at the Etihad. And I thought that Ipswich have given a really good account of themselves in both games. I thought they were excellent in the first half against Liverpool. They're a little bit scrappy. They're a little bit kind of hard to get by, but that physicality adds to them. And I think it doesn't take away from the fact that they look exceptionally talented in, going forward as well. We saw a couple of chances open up against Liverpool. Amari Hutchinson not really able to take them. One for Sammy Smodics at Man City, which he obviously took. Don't poke the bear. We've learned this to our chagrin before. If you poke Manchester City early, they drop loads of goals on you. It's not always been pretty.
There isn't really any ideal time to score against Man City.
93rd minute at 0-0. I think is the only time, the only way you can do it. The only way you can do it. Brentford did it a few years ago. I remember they scored in the 93rd minute to get that win. So I think that's the only way to beat them. But just the way that Ipswich are set up, and Kieran McKenna staying after links elsewhere to a variety of jobs this summer, massive for them. They've invested, I think, quite smartly. It feels a bit like an all-star championship team, and it's probably worth considering what that means. And in some ways, they're obviously this season's Luton Town, but
I think they're
in a much nicer place and a much nicer club. And yes, agree.
Oh, I thought you meant places in like they've got better players, but no, I see. No, I literally meant
all of the above, right? But it does feel like they've kind of done this very smartly. They're prepping in terms of building a side that I think will compete to stay up. I think of the 3 promoted sides, Ipswich look far and away the best right now. Now that can change, and obviously it will take some time for Steve Cooper to get his, this Leicester side under his command, etc. But Ipswich look like they've come out of the blocks hottest. I think what they've done in terms of their signings and fitting into the ethos of their squad, bringing up kind of like a Jacob Greaves. You're looking at a couple of different players, Sammy Schmodic, who I really, really like. Chidozie Ogbene, I think, has signed for them this morning as we speak. So looking at what they're doing, it does feel a little bit kind of, let's give it a go with kind of the cream of the crop of the Championship, and a couple of players in the likes of Calvin Phillips who have been in the Premier League before and shown that they have the capability and have something to prove. I think that there's really nice parallels actually between them and Luton. And actually, I thought Luton at the end were the side that had the most about them in terms of trying to stay up last season.
If Luton hadn't have got the injuries that they did, I think they had a real shot at staying up.
So I think Ipswich have looked at that model and thought, okay, can we do that but better? And so far, I think from their signings, I would say so good. Those are the things that have impressed me most. And also, if they do go back down, I know it hasn't done brilliantly for Luton so far in the Championship, but you'd imagine that Ipswich side will now have enough to bounce back at the first time of asking if they can keep it together, which they should be able to, because a lot of those players are sort of betweeners, if you will. So in many ways, and they'll hate this, they're a bit like Norwich. And there is that kind of line of being like, okay, what did Norwich do a couple of years ago? Well, they did something similar in this kind of mould. Now, that's no disrespect to Ipswich fans, and I think that actually they've done this in a far smarter way with a far better manager. And I'm excited to see what they can put together this season. I just hope it really gets going after this weekend.
Yeah, because the way that the fixture list fell for them, having Liverpool, and actually for the first 45 minutes against Liverpool, they were on the rocks. And look, it was Arne Slot's kind of genius to do that tactical tweak at half time, and suddenly they came out the second half and looked really good. And
Liverpool also ferociously open at the back, which I don't think Fulham will be. I don't think we'll give them that amount of time to counter-attack into.
I felt like against Man City, and look, this has to be caveated with obviously the calibre of playing they were playing. It felt like they made mistakes in defence. I feel like I look at Muric and I cannot believe he's got another Premier League move. I think he's a poor goalkeeper. He's obviously a good shot stopper, but he has so many mistakes in him. I'm amazed that he's got a Premier League move. There's a few players there. I really like Leif Davis in the Championship. I mean, he's made a couple of mistakes, but he's good on, he'll be a little bit wounded.
I'm not
after a
massively
tough couple of
worried
days.
about him giving away a penalty against Savio, or Savinho as he's now known apparently. That can happen to anyone. That can happen to them, and did against some of the best defenders in the world in La Liga last season. I don't think you'll worry about that. I think Leif Davis is going to have a really good season. I think his set piece ability is excellent, and someone who really has the ability to shine in the Premier League, but it's okay for him to also take some time to settle. That's not the end of the world.
The thing I think about this game is if this was, Ipswich at Craven Cottage and it was February, I'd be confident that Fulham can beat this Ipswich team. I think pound for pound, Fulham have a better team, have better players. My worry on Saturday is the occasion. That's my biggest thing, and it just does have that feeling of, oh God, they're going to be so up for it. It's like when we went to Hull on the opening day a few years ago, and that Hull team weren't fit to lace Fulham's boots, but it was the opening day and they were all bang up for it, and they scored one, and the crowd was up, and the Fulham players kind of melted. That's my big concern here. I do think that Fulham have lost that soft touch that I felt like we had for years.
I don't think we'll melt. I really don't think we'll melt. And look, we might lose, but I don't think we'll melt. I don't think that this Fulham team are built the same way. I think there is a sense of real steel about this team. And look, we saw that, I think, against Leicester when it got a bit physical and players started bombing into challenges. And we saw that really early doors from Anthony Robinson, right? Went absolutely through a player in the first, I think it was Abdul Fattah, in the first sort of 5 minutes. And everyone was like, wee! And it was like, okay, Fulham are off to the races. Sasha did it a couple of times. And I did look at it and think, well, is it about replacing Palhinha in attitude as well as replacing him on the pitch, and who's going to step up? And it looks like kind of everyone a little bit is ready to step up. I think what we've seen from this team suggests to us that they are going to be able to deal with these kind of pressure situations. And look, with all due respect, and I've just spoken about how much I love going to Portman Road, it's not, the Den. It's not like we're going to an atmosphere that's absolutely hostile and absolutely.
Well, it's got quite a lot of similarities to the Cottage. It's small, it's intimate. Is it ferocious No.
No, but in which case these players should be well used to it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, as in, of all the places they should be able to. Yeah, I agree.
You can hear every word that's said in the stands. It is a ground that can deliver in its own way, not by being like incredibly hostile, but it's not.
Fast start would be useful. I think is probably the one we'll go with.
Yeah.
Just quieten it down a bit. Just make sure, because I think that also there is going to be a sense, as you say, they've obviously lost 2, they've conceded 6, they'll be, if not bottom, then down the bottom of the table so far. They're going to be in that kind of space.
And they're thankful for Everton existing.
Yeah, thankful for Everton. But when you kind of look at that, you go, well, they will be really up for this and be like, first game we can win. If Fulham score first, you can imagine the bubble starts to burst a little bit in terms of just being like, okay, right, this is a new league. It's not like suddenly everyone but Liverpool and Man City and Arsenal we can beat. This is a league where we're going to have to scrap for absolutely everything. And again, that doesn't mean that Fulham or Ipswich are going to win this game. But I do think just being able to calm everyone down a touch and be like, look, we're in control of this. And just say, look, we've been here a couple of years. We know what the drill is now. We are the experienced Premier League side in this, in this matchup, which is not still a game we can say for loads of games in the Premier League. We're still relative newbies with this side at least. Whereas I think with this one, you can be a bit sort of senior man. You can just kind of quiet it down a tad. Just be like, all right, okay, we know that you're up for this, but maybe we just.
Yeah, I used to think that like the only game that like concerns me where I do think that Fulham melted in an intense atmosphere against a team that isn't as good as us as Forest away last year. Like where we were 3-0 down after 20 minutes and Silva had to make the triple sub and stuff. That's when like...
Slightly different, I was going to say game state, but season state, I suppose, in that Fulham were basically on the beach.
Yeah.
Like, and I think at this point, there's still loads to prove. There's still a lot of players out there who are, settling into this Fulham team and want to, make good on that. And you're looking at the likes of Smith Rowe and thinking, okay, great start against Leicester. Now can you go and control another game away from home, because actually you weren't able to get in the game as much as we'd hoped against Manchester United. Can you do it away from the cottage? Can you show us what you got? I think this is an opportunity for those kind of players. I can see Alex Iwobi loving this game. Just being like, oh look, they think they're gonna win this. They think they're gonna. Him and Bassi like giggling as they come out on the pitch, and then him scoring twice in the first 20 minutes. Yeah, I'll take that. Thank you very much.
You need Iwobi to get. Well, he's
off the mark, mate. We're off the. I was trying to get your attention at the cottage when he scored. Trying to like throw things down at you. I also thought he'd got the assist for the first, and I was like, oh, we're in real business. We're absolutely cooking. Turns out Adama picked that one up. But I was like, why is Adama off the wing? Like that's not where Adama's supposed to be. So I was like, okay, it is what it is. But you're kind of looking at that and thinking, okay, good start. Now kick on, Alex. I'm excited.
Yeah. In terms of lineup and personnel, we saw Berger and Anderson play last night. For me, actually, I was kind of concerned by Berger's performance. I'm just hoping it's rustiness. I'm hoping that it's first game and stuff like that.
It'll be fine. There was a few telescopic leg tackles that I really like. I love players that can do this. Okay. It looks like the ball's gone and they just like stick out like an Inspector Gadget kind of leg, and then suddenly the ball's back in their possession. You're like, how have you done that? I think it's probably I can't understand that because I'm like 5'7". But when you kind of look at what the frame that he has to work with and the levers that he has in his body,
there was a few moments where he would get the ball with his back to goal, and I felt like he was a bit nervous. He was scared to make the forward pass. It would often just like go back to Cuenca, but actually I'm just used to someone like Polina going like, actually, no, I'm going to find Robinson.
Yeah, I'll shrug out of pressure. Yeah,
I think maybe just not quite used to our system yet as well. I think there'll be a big element of that. Anyway, what I was trying to say is I'd be surprised to see any changes.
Yeah, me too. Especially with like 11 of the potential changes you would make used in midweek. Like, if that hadn't happened, maybe you say, okay, maybe does Anderson come in now? Maybe a Sander Berger comes in. I can't see him making any shifts. Especially because, to be honest, against Leicester, I thought we played well. I thought, again, we made it hard on ourselves. But generally, across the course of the game, I thought we were the better team for 80% of that. Leicester are in real trouble, by the way. They are not very good. But I thought that whilst we conceded a silly goal, etc., and that needs to be worked on, and look, Silva will talk about a set-piece threat, and he'll talk about Anderson and Berger coming in and being like, gives us solidity one box and a threat in the other, and I think that's massively necessary. For now, I can't see either of them breaking in, considering I thought the Diop and Bassi did really well against Leicester for the most part. I think
And
there was no real
Lukic
problems.
was brilliant.
Lukic was brilliant, and I don't think he'll drop Andreas Pereira, considering he is currently the stat leader for chances created in the Premier League. So
He will never drop Andreas Pereira. We will be doing Fulhamish in 2050, and Andreas Pereira will still be
good.
Yeah, doing bits for
Still be
Fulham.
creating chance after chance after chance. I honestly, I just don't get the hatred. Like, I saw one of the 3-word reviews. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but was just like, "Great, no Pereira," and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
One, we were terrible. Two, like Pereira was excellent. Like, yes, okay, his final ball is occasionally lacking, but generally, I thought against Leicester, he was really sharp.
I just think also you've got this international window with which to work with your squad, and I know like Anderson and Berger will go away with their national teams because they're pretty integral to both of them. But even so, Silva will have time. That I think if you're going to see some changes, like the moment that it's going to happen, isn't it? That Anderson's going to come in for Diop. I'm sorry, he's a Diop, but it's just going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Fulham haven't signed Kim Anderson for that amount of money to sit him on the bench, right? That's as simple as that.
I think it happens against West Ham. That's when it probably happens. Unless Issa Diop drops a 10 out of 10 against Ipswich, which isn't beyond the realm of possibility.
To be honest, that's really not beyond the realms of possibility. He does have those games in him. He also has a 3 out of 10 in his locker, so we'll see how we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that this period, I've said it before, this period ahead of this international break feels like it's just get through. Everybody get through. Don't get any injuries. Don't get any major injuries. Don't drop any stupid points. Just make sure you're in the mixer. And I think that Fulham will get to that international break, and then we'll see a bit of a reset about how the squad works.
And then on that note, I think I'd take a point here.
Yeah.
I think if
you offered that to me now, I would probably say no. I wouldn't shake your hand for a point at this point.
Now
I'd take the risk.
See, I wouldn't actually, and I normally want to. I'm normally like, what's the point? What's the point of like being alive if you can't dream? But
well, if dream of wins at Ipswich, how the mighty.
I actually just think, just take the point. Just be sensible. Steady golf. Take a 3-wood and not a driver.
No, absolutely whack this out from between the trees. No, you can hit that fairway from here. This is a game that Fulham can win, and I think that if you offer me a point at, like, I don't know, West Ham, I might be like, yeah, okay. But
see, that's where I'm not going for it. I'm like, what's the point? Yeah,
no, but like, it's like, well, if it was 1 point to 0, is the gap to 1 to 3, right? You got 2. I know how it works,
and especially because it's so early season, I'm kind of going on your mantra of that. This is the first 3 games. Our team's not fully settled yet.
Now get into the international break in a European spot and build.
Don't get me wrong, I want to win. I just think actually, like, I
would not. I've looked at this Ipswich team and I think they're good, and I've just spent ages singing their praises.
Yeah.
If you were like to me, Fulham can't beat this team, I would laugh at you. That doesn't mean Fulham will beat this team, but like, Fulham should be winning this game. Look at it. Look at it on paper. Like, you can't shake on a game. You could shake for a point on a game that's 50-50, maybe like 55-45 in your favour. On paper, this game is 70-30 Fulham. In terms of squad.
Yeah.
So therefore, you can't shake for a point on it.
But I think with the circumstances,
60-40 maybe.
I think we're on. It's one of those that I'm not. I'm like, we're on for. This is a bad time. I would not. Apart from the fact it's fun and it's going to be sunny.
We're going to win 3-0.
The other thing that makes it a bad time is it is my 5-year wedding anniversary on Saturday, so I'm not going to the game.
Killer.
To the day.
5 years ago, I was at your wedding.
Yeah,
That's
no.
exciting.
Yeah, it's the 31st of August. But yeah, no, that one was never going to wash.
You got to do what you got to do, mate. You got to do what you got to do.
I get away with a lot. I get to go to a lot of Fulham games. I miss a lot of birthdays and all of those things. But yeah, 5-year anniversary to the day.
What is that? Is it like...
Oh, God, I don't know.
Like papers.
I probably should know, considering I've got 2 days to get a present.
Yeah, you should. If Kaz is listening to this, you're in real trouble.
She does not listen to the Fulhamish podcast. She has never listened to an episode of the Fulhamish podcast in her entire life.
Fair dues.
She doesn't even know the score half the time.
That's fine. That'll work.
Not interested. I'm quite glad for it. Right. Emails. This one is from Topius. It says, hi, question for the team. I know when you start your question, am I the only one? Usually you most certainly are not the only one. Let's anyway share my midweek thoughts. I've heard quite a few times that it would be great to see Brentford getting smashed, bashed and relegated from the Premier League. Am I the only one who thinks that having them around is better than seeing them a level below? I look forward to those derbies, although if it were just about nothing more than having bragging rights for being the best of the West. Of course, you could argue that being on top level while they are not gives you some the same audacity, but those games are always a bit more than just regular afternoons and evenings on the fixture list. What are your thoughts on this? To clarify, I don't mind them being smashed and bashed. That's a perfectly reasonable wish. Keep up the good work and best regards from Finland. I don't know if we've got many Finnish Fulhamish listeners, so hello Topius.
He's not Finnish, he's only 29.
For God's sake.
I mean, it's impossible not to reference that if it comes up.
Yeah.
Also, considering it was about Anthony Amy, Fulham legend, so maybe that's why.
We have got a great Hall of Fame of Scandinavian players, and obviously now two more to the list.
I get it. And I was having this discussion on a slightly different point at the weekend, in that someone was like, well, what do you say? And I was like, I want QPR in the Premier League. I want them to get promoted. Because one, 6 points. But two, like, I think it's great having everyone around. And like, I mean, it's different for everybody else and it's different for like each bit. But my family are really split in terms of most of my dads and his brothers are all Fulham. My aunt's Brentford. She married QPR. I've said this on the pod before, but I love those. And I love those games. And I love those days where I get to go out and, you know, and drinking wherever it is. The Lord Nelson after, you know, Brentford with, you know, those lot, or the pocket watch after QPR. And I love that. And going in, you know, win, lose or draw. And you come in with the bragging rights, it's great. And if you lose, you come in, tail between your legs a little bit and just be like, hey, well, you know, it is what it is. That's part of it, right? That's the entire thing about local rivalries that makes it so exciting. And I like, the more of it, to be honest, the better. Now, I think Brentford could do with knocking down a peg or two. They're getting a little bit big for their boots. But generally, as a kind of question of, as a holistic whole, I would rather have all four of the West London clubs in the Premier League.
Yeah. Do you know what? Weirdly, I feel differently about this for QPR and Brentford. I would, and maybe that is because of our records at the two grounds.
Yeah, and also like there's an element of recency bias in this, right? That if you'd offered this to Fulham, I don't know, 10 years before we started playing them regularly in the Championship, and you'd be like, "Will Brentford come up? You get to go to Brentford away, and you get a local derby." I think a lot of people are like, "Great," like, but considering where they've got to, and look, reluctant credit to them because they are very good at what they do. It kind of changes the picture a little bit in terms of like, they could do with just going down once, but I wouldn't mind them coming back. Like, that wouldn't bother me.
Fulham QPR has always been this kind of like, and maybe it's because because Brentford have like chipped up there, and I feel like Fulham and QPR almost just want to like dislike Brentford. I don't know. I know that there is a rivalry between Fulham and QPR, but it's not the same as Brentford. They annoy me so much.
It might have been going up. Like, I remember the first day I went to uni was the day that we beat QPR 6-0 at the Cottage.
Yeah.
And I missed it because I was driving to Durham. And my cousins had come over from Ireland and they're QPR and they were all in the away end. And all of my uncles were there like, this is the best. My dad is absolutely fuming because he's missing this game to drive me up. And you're like, that's a really nice kind of thing to be like, cool, that's a fun memory. But I do think that the rivalry was more lively at that point than perhaps it had been.
Well, it was liveliest when the whole Mark Hughes thing happened. I remember when we beat them and it was the whole...
Well, we did share a stadium, I suppose, with them. They let us use our stadium, so we should be probably slightly grateful.
That game where we won 1-0, Pogrebniak scores, and it was all about Mark Hughes' ambition and stuff. There was real needle that day.
Yeah.
There was real needle. There was a real, like, putting them in their place.
Steph Johansson goal at Loftus Road is one of the maddest I've ever gone at a goal. Like, that's right up there.
Yeah.
With limbs. Like, that's a real
I guess for me, it's not like, yeah, I get it.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Do I never want to play Brentford again? No, of course. I it's fun to play them. It's good to have a rival. I think there's an element of right now is Fulham and Brentford are kind of in a bit of a supremacy battle in a way. And I'd like Fulham to
come out on top of it.
Yeah. And if that means them going down for now,
yeah, okay.
That would be quite fun and quite good.
Fair enough.
But I don't want to never play them again.
Right. Okay. Fair.
That's my view. And obviously, anyway, the West London club. Well, no, it doesn't work now. They beat Wolves. I was going to say the West London club that's going down this year is probably Chelsea, but
no, they're either getting relegated or they're in the Champions League. One of the two, and you can pick your poison.
Yeah. Justin Miller says. We may get an answer prior to your recording the pod, but with the number of players incoming, such as Berg, Anderson, and maybe Cherky, it's not going to be Cherky, but anyway, some of these players are obviously brought in to fill gaps left by those left over the summer, but it surely leaves one or two of our current players out of the rotation. Harrison Reed comes to mind. Could Stansfield get sold? Maybe loans for Stansfield and Josh King. Josh King was very good last night.
Very good, yeah.
What do we think happens with Lukic? A much more interesting summer than I imagined we would have. Basically, he did send that a few days ago, so a few things have changed. Do we see any outgoings on Friday?
Yeah, I can't imagine this squad is going to be this big. I don't know who it's going to be, but I do think we will probably shift a midfielder. I did think earlier in the summer that Harrison Reed was going to go back to Southampton, but that seems to have quietened down over the last couple of days. I mean, might rear its head again, but I was wondering if he was the odd man out in this midfield. That said, he probably is the kind of most versatile of the midfield lot, in that he fits with any of the others in a way that I don't think necessarily everyone else does. You could almost play Harrison with anyone else.
I also saw him bombing up the right last night, and it didn't really come to that much, but I was like, oh, I do miss kind of like Harrison Reed on that, in those inside pockets.
I think he gives you a bit of industry and endeavour in there in a way that no one else does. His profile's different to almost everybody else. If Andre had come in, then I think Harrison Reed would have left.
Yeah.
But I wonder if they'll keep him because of that. I mean, on yesterday's performances, then you'd imagine that the midfielder who's got the weakest claim to be in the squad is Tom Kearney, but he's not going anywhere as club captain and in his 10th season with Fulham. So I don't know who's going to leave. I imagine there might be late interest in getting Josh King alone. Would probably be my kind of immediate
quite
thought.
Young. It's almost like a bit too soon, isn't it? It's almost a bit like just have the experience of being with the first team this year, and you're going to be on the bench and you're never going to play, but you see the dressing rooms and you go to all the stadiums and stuff like that. The one for me is Stansfield.
Well, I wonder if Harry Wilson, actually, if we sign another forward, and obviously linked with Ernest Nuamah, and we should probably talk about him in a minute briefly.
Yeah.
If we sign another winger and an offer comes in for Harry Wilson, do Fulham accept it? My immediate thought is probably yes, because whilst obviously we lost Willian over the summer and Bobby Decord over Reed, the additions plus the players who kind of can play centrally and wide means that Fulham are kind of in a space where I'm not sure how many minutes Harry Wilson is going to get, and he should be at an age in his career where he's a full-time locked-on starter for someone.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if the right offer came in, if another body comes through the door. If no one else comes through the door, then I think Wilson will stay. But I wonder if the right offer came in for Wilson, or as you say, if a loan offer comes in for Stansfield, if another player comes in, maybe they're the two that I would see potentially moving on towards the end of the window.
Yeah, let's come on to the transfer rumours. So it looks like Tony Khan went down south in his Lamborghini, tried to pick up Ryan Cherky, and they've gone, we haven't got Ryan Cherky, but out the back of the shop, I do have an Ernest Nuamah. Would you be interested, Tony Khan? It seems like Tony Khan potentially has gone, oh, you know what, a bit of Ernest Nuamah. Yeah, it's not what I came looking for, but you never know.
I mean, really interesting player. Watched quite a lot of him at Nordsjælland. He hasn't played all that much for Lyon since moving there, and I think his move was only officially made permanent this summer, so it's a bit of a weird one in terms of finances.
Can we get a bit of, so we're talking attacking midfielder?
He's a winger. I think his best position's probably on the right wing, but can play across the front line, can play up top as well. Really, really good eye for goal for a youngster. You know, when you're looking at a player at like 17, 18 years of old, and you're thinking, all right, they've got lots of, he's really quick, like electric pace over the top, and has that ability to beat a player. But I think what I was most impressed with at Nordsjælland was his ability to find the corner of the net on a regular basis. And he was kind of a bit of a sniper in terms of where he was. Now, level dependent, and obviously you've got caveat that with, obviously he was playing in the Danish Superliga, but there was enough there that made Lyon get very, very excited about him and put in a relatively big bid for him. He went on loan there first, and I think they made it permanent.
It's 12 million.
Yeah, for a 12 million fee. So that was a lot on, a youngster. He came through the Right to Dream Academy, I believe, in Ghana, which has produced quite a lot of talent at this point, and has a real link with Nordsjælland. They have, they've brought a lot of players through there. But I was really excited about him. Ibrahim Osman has just gone to Brighton, and now he's gone back out on loan again. And they paid a relatively big fee for him, more than what Lyon paid for Nuamah. I thought Nuamah was the better player of the two of them when they were both playing in the Superliga, not together, but like in terms of watching them comparatively. I do really like him. He's a bit raw still, but the elements of his game that are mature are ones you wouldn't necessarily expect to be. You know, that finishing ability, that, you know, ability to find the right moment to take a shot, that you know, ability to find space and separation from a defender. I think this would be a really, really exciting signing. And I also think it would be quite a good time to drop him in to this Fulham squad, because I don't necessarily think he would be expecting to come in and start every game. But by the end of the season, he has the ability that would make me think he might be a starter by then.
Yeah, I mean, he's 21. He's been linked quite heavily with Everton. So much so that actually there is an article here from Grand Old Team, which is quite a big Everton blog, which is called "Welcome Ernest Nuamah." I wonder if they might have gone a little bit early on that
Shock.
one. Forest also have been linked with him. Yeah, I mean, like, it seems, Jack, that we just have this last, it seems like 10 to 15 million.
Well, I think we're looking for an unlocker. Right. And I think this is a thing because, and I've spoken about this with Spurs in relation to this window before, because they had all these pieces that were like, okay, parts of a whole that seem to work. But what happens if someone's lined up in front of you in a low block? Who's going to unlock that door? And I wonder, with the way that we've set up with this physicality that I talked about last week, Marcus Silva requiring, and that, you know, ability to burst through big spaces and make the pitch big, if we're just looking for someone who has the ability to beat a man a la Willian, and just open up that spare player. And I think Nuamah is the kind of player that might fit into that mould in the same way that Shirky did. They're not the same player in terms of what they'd like to do. And Shirky was a predominantly left-hand sided player, liked to play in the 10, but also kind of drifted inside and liked to open up onto his right foot. Nuamah's left-footed. But you kind of look at what they have the ability to do in terms of like being that intricate lockpick. And I think that Nuamah has that ability to beat a man as well as the ability to go over the top. And I wonder if that's something that they're considering in terms of a striker, especially with Anderson's diagonal delivery. Are Fulham going to look for a player who can get over the back of a back line and make things count? Nuamah feels like that kind of type to me.
Yeah. Final email from Corey in Denver, Colorado. Dear Fulhamish, my question is about Raheem Sterling.
Raz.
Fulham seem to be looking for a left winger. Chelsea are looking to offload him. He wants to stay in the Premier League, which is true, and his family is settled in London. That seems like a good fit. His reported wages are £325,000 a week, far too high for Fulham, and he's unlikely to take a big cut when he could ride out his remaining 3 years. But Chelsea have said that they would cover some of his wages. This is just a non-start. This isn't happening, is it?
No, I don't think so. There is something really quite nice and romantic about this as an idea. Not just because I really like Raz, but because actually Raheem Sterling was supposed to sign for Fulham right before he signed for Liverpool. In fact, he was at Motspur Park when he got the call from Liverpool to be like, we're looking to sign you. He was looking at putting pen to paper on a Fulham contract. So for him to have eventually come full circle and come to the cottage would be really nice. And I would love to see it. But I think it's just a non-starter at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I think he will go somewhere. He's talked about like Villa and Juventus. I think it's too much.
It's too much money for us. And to break our wage structure for Raheem Sterling, much as Marco likes experienced players, I think it's probably just too much of an ask for Fulham.
Yeah. All right. That'll do for the pod today. For all the reaction to transfer deadline day, it doesn't seem like Fulham are actually going to be that busy on deadline day.
Yeah, you say that now. 8 players through the door at Motspur, 2 domestic loans, 2 foreign loans. They're all coming in. Deal sheets FC. Mate, it's going to be unbelievable.
Well, if that does happen, then
I really hope that doesn't happen.
The Fulhamish YouTube channel is the place to be. Jack and Joe are doing their, biannual deadline day stream. They do one in August. They do one in January. It will be getting going about 9:30 on Friday. So if you kind of at a loose end on Friday night and you want to enjoy the final hours of deadline day with us, no doubt they'll be kind of looking back at the window as a whole. There might be a Fulham player or two leaving. We never know. Don't go to bed just yet.
One day.
So yeah, head over to watch Jack and Joe on the YouTube channel and their deadline day stream on Friday. Jack, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sammy. It's been an absolute pleasure.
George will be hosting the podcast. It'll be up on Monday morning, reviewing everything that happens at Portman Road. If you're going, enjoy. I'll be checking the phone under my under the table
as you're in Bluebells in Sunningdale.
Yeah.
Be more Fulham, man. Be more Fulham.
And yeah, if you're going, enjoy. If not, enjoy wherever you're watching it. And come on, you whites.
You whites.